All right. Let's talk about office locations or provider locations within the system. One of these will be set up for you automatically at the time that you register your account. But if you have multiple locations or multiple large separate divisions within your company, you may want to consider setting up an office record for that. Um, an office has a unique code or classifier that you'll put within the software, the company name, address, information, phone number, website, the default email address. And then under advanced, you have the capability of setting up who the administrator is. Um, don't worry about payroll status right now. That gets set automatically when you're running payroll. You can also set up regions. So if you have offices across the country and you wanted to set up a central region and put your Dallas location within your central region, you have that capability. It's very simple setup there. Again, the default county of that office, which is what will default onto your patient profiles. You can also tell us which service areas you're authorized to work in within a state, and you can manually search for those, or you can actually add an entire state in at one time. So this just gives you the capability of keeping track of all of your service areas within the software. And then you're also able to create individual territories. This is a really powerful feature. So by default, I think we give you Northeast, Northwest, Southeast, Southwest. You're able to configure that to your liking. If you want that to be all the way down to like a zip code level or a neighborhood level, you can do that. Just be familiar with what capabilities are available there. So within a territory, you are able to kind of delineate what that territory is, and you're also able to assign a default case manager, intake coordinator, scheduling coordinator, financial coordinator, recruiting coordinator, QA coordinator, and community coordinator associated with that territory. Which becomes really powerful. So these all of these employees will default onto your patient coordination screen whenever you admit a new patient. So if you wanted to have a case manager responsible just for the Northeast Territory, in our system, the case manager is responsible basically for the entire operations for that particular patient, clinical, financial, scheduling. And then underneath the case manager, we have someone who's responsible for all of the intake processes, eligibilities, etc. You have someone who can be responsible for scheduling and staffing, someone who's responsible for billing and financial and authorizations, someone who's responsible for recruiting employees for that particular territory, someone who's responsible for your care validation and QA auditing within that territory. You do have the capability of assigning out a billing agent, which is that's a more in-depth feature that we won't get into today. And then a community coordinator who would be similar to a marketer within that territory. For home health agencies, you don't have to worry about rooms so much, but if you operate a clinic and the clinic is your office, then you can actually control like the exam rooms or resources that are available within that territory. So a lot of kind of powerful functionality that is hidden under this advanced section I wanted you to be aware of. The rest of the office information is fairly straightforward. The type of entity for this particular provider location, their taxation codes and entity codes. If when we bill, if you want an insurance company to actually send your checks to a different provider, like to a corporate address, you can control that under your pay to provider information. And then we won't get into all of these extra options here, but just understand you can override the default plan of care length at an individual office location. When we do payroll exports, if you utilize like ADP or QuickBooks, you have the flexibility of adding in some GL codes and branch codes and payroll companies for that play into those particular export files. What you will want to be familiar with, though, is your admission agreement capabilities. You can put in your admission paperwork within the software. And if you utilize this here during our point of care admission document, your patients can sign off on that admission document through their point of care program. And throughout the software, you're going to see tracking items available. This allows you to track your corporate requirements for this particular office. So for instance, keeping track of when your Medicare cost report is due, or keeping track of your professional liability policy, keeping track of tax deadlines or insurance deadlines, etc. You can set those up within the system per office and track those here within the system. So for instance, when you submit your Medicare cost report, you can attach a copy of that file to this section, and then you can put in the expiration date to say that, okay, we need to turn in our next cost report by the end of March, and the system will remind you that expiration date is coming up, and this also then keeps a history of those cost reports within the software. So we recommend tracking all of your corporate requirements from survey to taxation to insurance to financial information. We recommend setting that up under your tracking. And then you also have a files repository, so you can store any documents for this particular office. For instance, maybe the legal incorporation or contracts or any other type of document. You can just simply upload those files directly to the system. And then throughout the system, you'll also see have the capability of creating individual notes just as a historical record, so you can plug those in.